All right, Stephanie with the patient story, joined by Kim for this third and final segment of Kim's follicular lymphoma story. Kim, you just walked us through, you had basically 3 years of treatment for your indolent follicular lymphoma, which means slow growing. You got got great news in the middle of treatment a year and a half later, no evidence of disease. Um, but I know that it's a lot more complicated than just saying, "Whoa, cool, I'm done."
Yeah.
My treatment's done, everything's done. So let's start with that. I think
Okay.
we're getting a little bit emotional talking about it.
Yes.
Okay, I think people don't really understand sometimes the transition from going through treatment and then all of a sudden there's like this drop off and you don't have the same appointments. And talk to us about that.
Um, I remember, like I said, I was there and he said, I was excited, but I was scared at the same time because when you're going to them every 2 weeks, you just you feel comfortable because you know that they're watching everything. They're looking at your blood work, they're looking at your scan. So you're being taken care of. You know that if there's something there, it's going to be seen. But I knew that once the treatment started, you know, it's not going to be like that anymore. So it's scary because I don't know how to explain it. It's just something I just felt comfortable going every 2 weeks. And now that I knew that I wasn't, I was scared because I'm like, oh my God, what if they miss something now? Because I'm only going every 6 months. And what if I don't realize that something's going on? Um, so I was scared. I was really scared. I didn't know how to adjust to that. For 3 years, I was going to them every 2 weeks.
Right.
So, and like you said, normal, Lissy, you have to do a new normal. And I didn't know how to do that. Like my life is changed forever.
Yeah.
And I did have a hard time. I did have a hard time adjusting.
What helped you? I know it's still an ongoing adjustment. It is for me too. What has
Yeah.
helped you in the transition?
Honestly, I was a mess for a while afterwards, mentally, physically. I didn't want to do anything. Um, I was depressed really bad. So I wound up going to see a therapist. I'm seeing a therapist, and right now I've been seeing her for 2 years, I want to say. Actually, I seen a different therapist. So 2 years I've been seeing a therapist, and it does help me. I actually got into walking. I know I said I walk before, but I mean I'm really walking now. I do a lot of physical activity because it helps me keep my mind where it needs to be because the anxiety of reoccurrence is it's always there,
Yeah.
always there. So therapy is the main thing though. I love therapy. I can talk to her about anything, and she helps me try to adjust my brain to where it needs to be instead of going into that negative place, um because you can't predict the future.
Right. You just gotta
So
live.
we just
Yeah.
she's trying to she's trying to show me how I need to live for today. And it's something that's, it's hard. Like I said, you're going through that for 3 years, somebody telling you pretty much what to do. And it was an adjustment, but I'm working on it and I'm getting better.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I'm so glad you brought up the therapy because, mental health is so important
Yes.
to tend to. And you're doing a great job, Kim, of taking care of yourself. So
Thank you.
that's wonderful. I'm actually going to also pop a picture up of, you said you have a therapy dog. So you're
Yes.
taking different steps. Talk to us about the therapy dog.
Well, Percy, actually, we got him, I want to say about 2 years, a year before I actually was diagnosed with cancer. And after during my cancer, it's like he knew something was going on. And he was always by my side. He would nap with me. He does everything with me. Even now, if I'm having a bad day, he just knows. He knows. He just helps me.
Mm.
It's it He's a cuddler. He likes to cuddle. He just seems to sense when I'm having a bad day. He helps me get through a lot, that little dog.
Oh, I love that.
He's like my side buddy.
So we'll keep putting up some pictures of Percy. That's wonderful. Speaking of comfort and relationships, cancer diagnosis impacts so much more than just the patient. It impacts the caregivers, which means both your son and your husband. So let's
Yeah.
talk about with your husband. How did the cancer impact your relationship with him? And do you have any advice for people, who are in relationships and dealing with cancer?
I have to say that my husband was my rock and still is my rock. He took off 6 months of work to take care of me. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get choked up. He took off 6 months of work to be with me. And his work allowed him to do that. And even now, he goes to every appointment. He went to every chemo appointment. You just have to be supportive, I think. You don't really have, sometimes you don't have to listen, just be there. I think that's important too. And a lot of times he didn't have to speak, but he just knew what to do. And he still does. And I really advice, I'm not a good advice giver, but the only thing I can do, like I said, is just be there. Just be there. You don't have to have words. It's about support. More than anything, the support, just your presence, I think. That's the most important thing. That was what was important to me.
I love that. Is there a message too there about making sure that caregivers take care of themselves? Because a lot of,
Yes.
yeah, what would you like to
Yes.
say about that?
He, because he seemed to, hold on. Are you there? I'm sorry.
Yep. Oops, a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're back on with you, Kim. So you were talking about your husband and his need to take care of himself, right?
Yes. Because he was so worried about me all the time, but plus we have a son. So, I just told him, you need to take better care of yourself. I mean, I was okay, I think he was more worried than anything, but they need to take care of themselves.
Right.
It's the most important thing because he was so worried about me, he neglected himself. But I told him I'm fine. As long as I let him know I was fine, I think that he was okay. He was just so worried about me.
And that's love. And
Thank you.
and with your son, how about with your son? Is there anything else about going through treatments for 3 years and navigating that while raising your child?
I was blessed to have a son that I don't know how best to say. He was actually my rock. And raising him, it wasn't, he knew what he had to do. He just stepped up and did what he knew what he had to do while I was going through treatments. And thank God I had his father to help. But Gavin was more supportive. You would think he was the parent sometimes and I was the child. He's such a strong kid. So he just knew what he had to do. He just did what he had to do, to help us all really get through it.
Yeah. So it sounds like it kind of helps strengthen all of your
It
relationships.
it did. It really did.
Any tips on that? I guess it sounds like open communication, just
Yes.
being there. Uh-huh.
It's just I'm not very good at communicating. So this I'm sorry, it's the truth. But I think they just knew. It's just they just knew what needed to be done and we all got through it.
So stronger relationships. I want to ask you just a couple more questions. One is, I know you got to, during treatment, take a trip to Disney World, and
Oh,
I think there's
yes.
a message there about, hey, there are services out there and nonprofits and organizations, so go seek them out. So how did you learn about this trip, and talk to us about it?
Actually, my cancer doctor, Dr. Brian Wojcicki, said that there is an organization that sent, because I just lost my mother. and he seen that I was going through treatment. I just wasn't handling things very well, and that we were dealing with a lot as a family at that time. So he said, there's a plate, it's called For Pete's Sake, that gives families of respite, I think that's how you say it, a vacation, to get away for a while, to just enjoy being a family again, try a little bit of normalcy, to just spend time together and forget just for a little while. And they sent us to Disney World.
That's awesome.
He was, yes, I cannot thank them enough, ever. There's not enough thanks that I could give them. And I love them. The people of the organization are awesome. There's nothing, I mean, they're just awesome people. Awesome people. They help so many families, and they're so good. And they're just there. If you ever need to talk, they're there for you. They're just awesome people.
It's just so important to have a space where you can unwind and live life and enjoy something, right?
Yes. And it does make we seem like at the time, it was like, it's so nice to just come here and have fun and laugh and not think of what's going to happen next week, back on in for treatments. And it was just, I can never thank them enough. I cannot. And then there's also more Lisa's Army, it's called. Mm-hmm. They make packets up for cancer patients. Then sometimes I got a package from them. It had a computer. It had all kinds of things in there that they're also a good organization. They make up, I don't know how they're called, they're care packages.
Yep,
for patients. Yes. So I met, there was 2 organizations that were very good to me and my family. And like I said, I can never thank them enough.
I think it is so important to highlight these organizations because their missions are to help give some relief to patients and their families. So they were For Pete's Sake and Lisa's Army, is that right?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
And where are you again based out of?
I'm in Pennsylvania. It's called Brookhaven.
Okay. And are those organizations local to the area?
I think For Pete's Sake is in, I want to say King of Prussia.
Okay.
And Lisa's Army, I'm not actually sure.
Okay. It's okay.
Where they're
We'll put
okay.
Yeah, that sounds great. Everyone needs a little bit of care package, a little bit of vacation in their lives. So
I just, for people to do that, it still get emotional, but for people to do that, it means a lot. Sorry.
Tell us more about that. If you could share, if they're listening right now, what would you like to tell these people about what that meant to you?
Without crying, I just want to thank them for helping me and my family at the time we were going through so much. It just meant so much what they did for us. And I always have it in my heart, love for them. But like I can never, like I said, I can never thank them enough, but I have love for them, so much love.
Thank you for sharing that. I know there's a lot of real emotion, and I appreciate you sharing that, Kim, because cancer and everything it brings changes lives, and what people do, nonprofits and organizations like the ones you talked about, they really do have that impact, and we can see it with you. So I'm so glad that you found them. And look,
thank you.
Everyone who's watching or listening to this, there are organizations that are there to help. So don't be afraid to seek out their services, right?
Yes. Because they're always there. Like the kindness in their hearts, there's really no words I can,
And it's uplifting, and we need that.
It is. It is. To know somebody cares that much and has never met you.
Right.
Means so much.
Yep.
So
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Kim. The last question I have is open-ended. If you had just a message for other patients and caregivers who are watching this, maybe they're just starting their cancer
Hmm.
treatment, or what would you like to say to them?
The only thing I could say is no matter what, just keep your head up and keep pushing forward and surround yourself with positive people and people that will support you and that love you. But always keep pushing forward, always, and with a smile.
I love it. And your laugh and the Kim laugh. So that's awesome. That's great advice. Well, I want to say thank you again, Kim, for spending the time with us to share your story. So glad that you're doing well. Let's
Thank you.
love to keep in touch and have you keep us posted. And for everyone who is interested, Kim's story, her full story will be up at thepatientstory.com, where we like to give human answers to your cancer questions.